Today, we're taking a look at Midnight from Acustica Audio. This is based off of a Fairchild Vari-Mu compressor. So let's take a look at the interface. Of course, at the very top, we have the new preset management section. Next, we have the compressor on and off switch. This is useful for when you just want the preamp sound by itself. Speaking of the preamp, we have the Ultra button, which gives you a breaking point where you start getting distortion with the saturation. And down here is the trim. Now this is auto compensated. All right, so when you turn this up, you'll drive more into the preamp, but the volume itself does not get louder. Of course, we have our compression meter. So this is just showing how much compression, or the gain reduction meter. Next to that, we have the threshold, we have the attack, the recovery, or in other words, the release, and then the makeup gain. These are the four options that you have for the compressors. They each work a little different. So the nightshade, its attack time is no lower than 24 milliseconds. Twilight, it's at 1 millisecond. The eclipse, it's at 1 millisecond, but its recovery time is different than the twilight. All right, and then last but not least, moonlight, its attack time is at 7. So that's the top section. That's the section that works generally like any Fairchild-based anything, whether it's plugins or clones or the real thing. All right, down here in this section, we have the attack hold, the release hold, we have the stereo link. All right, and for the uninitiated, when it's off, it will process and or compress, in this case, the left and right signal coming into the plugin separately. When you put it on full, it does both the same, and then everything in between. The SMOD is a shape modifier. Now this modifies the attack of the plugin. We have a built-in sidechain filter from 0 Hertz to 250 Hertz. Now my understanding is where the knob lands here, all the way to the left, is its default ratio. So as you can see, each one has a different ratio than the others. Down here we have the power button. So all the way to the left, you're dealing more with peak. You go all the way to the right, more of the entire signal is compressed. And then everything in between, I'll control click that, and that puts it at 2. This is the default spot that is supposed to represent the original hardware. Same thing with the SMOD. When you click on the SMOD knob, it puts it as default for the hardware. Of course, mid-side options. And then we have Acustica Audio's morphing tech in here, where we can go from compression to limiter or saturation, and this can be morphed between the three. Down here we have the input control, the mix control, and the output. And then here at the bottom, the bypass and the various listen modes: left, right, mid, side, and delta, which is the difference between what's coming in and what the plugin is actually doing to the signal. This section is where we get the new waveform readout. So it shows you the compressor acting upon signals that is coming through the plugin. And we'll see that during the demonstration. Of course, I don't want to forget, at the top here, it shows you the compression curve for those that use that kind of readout. We do have the oversampling tech in here, and it is using the new anti-aliasing tech with the oversampling, up to 16 times anti-aliasing. Now, just like a lot of the newer plugins that they've been coming out with, this is the new flat skin. This is for those who would like a more modern look to their plugin rather than the vintage style. So all of the same controls here, right? They're kind of in different places. You have the input, you have the output, and I forgot to mention it on the other one, but you can resize the plugins, right? You have 3 different sizes. The compressor on, pre, ultra, input, output, the wave reduction readout, right? Threshold, ratio, stereo link, sidechain filter, the morph, whether you want to work with the mid, side, or everything. The bypass and listen section, your oversampling is down here. Your attack, release, dry, and wet mix knob, makeup gain, the power, the schmod, the attack hold, the release hold, the selection drop down for the 4 different compressor types, and finally, the compression curve. So that is the controls. Let's get into what we did with Midnight. The power is in your hand. So we have Midnight on the kick, on the snare, on the bass, on the guitar bus. We have it on the lead vocals, the drum bus, the music bus, verse harmony bus, on the chorus or hook, and on the master, the kick drum, before, after, the snare drum, before, after, the bass guitar, before, after, the guitar bus, before, after, using the flat skin on the lead, before, outside of my window, I'm watching the day go, and after, outside of my window, bit much, I'm watching the day go, the drum bus, before, after, for the verse harmonies, before, I'm looking, and after, I'm looking, for the hook, before, get no better, get no better, after, get no better, get no better, and then last but not least, the master bus, before, I'm looking outside of my window, I'm heavy, I'm watching the day go by, after, I'm looking outside of my window, I'm heavy, I'm watching the day go by, I'm watching the people hurrying through their lives. Oh no, all I keep hearing is it get no better, it get no better, it get no better, even if you try. All I keep hearing is it get no better, it get no better, it get no better, even if you try. You've heard the before, you've heard the after. Now I'm just going to mess with the master. And we're just going to dabble with some of the controls here so you can get a feel of what's going on. Power all the way to the left, of course, is peak. All the way to the right, average. Control click, default position. Remember, this is the saturation mode when it's all the way to the right. In the middle, we're doing limiting. There is lots of control. My thoughts on Midnight. It's not for everything. Let me say that to start, because this has a very distinctive flavor. As far as its usability, because of the way Acustica designs their compressor plugins, this particular thing, it can fit a large amount of source signals. But again, I don't think that it's for everything. This is a Vari-Mu compressor, so it has the sound of Vari-Mu. Lots of character, of course, the nice analog tone that you would get from these modern clones, and a very well-rounded compressor, to say the least. Outside of that,